I've had this clamped up over 24 hours now, so I think it's ready to come out. And I've also done a little shopping, get some supplies. So I got some 320 grit sandpaper. I think that's all I'm going to need for this project. And a little baby roller with some extra maps. And some Type 2 and some foam brushes and some green painter's tape and some blades and some chip brushes and a multi-purpose scraping tool. So I think all this plus some grain filler, some shellac, some toner lacquer and some clear lacquer should be enough to finish this project. Plus the cabinet itself, of course. Alright, so what am I going to do with all this? Well, once I get this veneer out, of course I'm going to want to attach it to the cabinet. There's a few ways to do it. And I was contemplating trying contact cement for the first time, but after reading up on it, I don't think it works very well with just plain wood veneer. In other words, when there's no paper backing. So I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to use what I've used in the past, which is to spread glue on both the veneer and the cabinet. Allow it to dry, position the veneer, and iron it on. Again, did some research online, and there's various formulations of Tite Bond glue, and they have different working times. Tite Bond 2 is the shortest, and it takes the highest temperature. From the time it dries to the time that ironing on won't work anymore, 7 hours. That's your open time. And you need 350 degrees. I believe Tite Bond traditional white glue, wood glue, never completely sets up. In other words, heat can always reactivate it, and I think that is what gave me trouble in one of my TV cabinets, where when I had it operating, the veneer started to bubble up. And then there's another type of Tite Bond 1 Premium or something like that, where you get a 7-day open time. Well, I want to try to do this all in one night, so I'm going to go with Tite Bond 2. Another problem I've had in the past is getting a thin, even layer of glue. I've tried just smearing it around with my finger on small projects, and I've tried using a brush before. This stuff is pretty thick and it starts to set up pretty quick. So, got to work fast. Or maybe I could try diluting it a little bit. What I haven't tried before is using a roller. Chip brushes, maybe, but I'm probably just going to use these to smear the grain filler around, because these are really cheap brushes and the bristles come off. You don't want to get those bristles embedded in the wood. So if this roller doesn't work well, I might try a foam brush. But hoping this will work out. Alright, I'll show you what the tape and the razor blade is for once I get this out. So let's take the sandwich apart. Okay, here we go. Good. Did not fuse to the veneer, that was my biggest concern. Alright, cool. Dry, quite flat. Ready to go. Almost ready to go. So now I got to figure out, how do I want to put this on the cabinet. I'll play around with it when I get the cabinet in here, but I think these are the prettiest side. Maybe if I go with this, well, you have the same problem as at either end. See, if I want to join these two edges up, we got a problem. Big gaps between the two. So once I decide how I want to orient this, say I want to go with it like this, we got to trim these edges. So, super sharp blade, fresh blade, get a good straight edge, and slice it at a slight angle. I want to have a slight angle on tops of both, so when I push them up together, it makes a really tight seam, which brings me to the tape. Once I get these edges prepared, I'm going to put it on the board and drive some thumbtacks and at slight angles to really force these two together. And I'm going to do it with the good side down. Or, yeah, with the good side, or not side. I'm going to do that with the good side up, I meant to say. So jam them together, but leave a bit of room so I can roll some tape. Traditionally you'd use veneer tape, but I've had pretty good luck with this. I might, after I tear off a piece, put it up against my jeans and then tear it off to get rid of some of the tackiness, because I don't, when I iron this down, I don't want the tape to become fused to the wood. I have to scrape and sand it off. So get these two edges cleaned up really good, jam them together really tight, put a piece of tape on it. Sorry, let me say that again. Clean up the edges, push them together tight, push pins at a bit of an angle, force them together tight, tape, take up the thumbtacks, and then I can work with this. Flip it over, put on the glue, put the glue on the cabinet, wait for it to dry a bit, put on another layer, 2 layers on each. Once that becomes dry, glue side down on top of the cabinet, position it how I want, get an iron, 350 degrees, put a paper towel between them so you don't scorch the veneer, and you iron it down until it's all good and set. Let it sit for 24 hours, and then you can proceed with finishing it the usual way. And of course, take off the tape once the glue is set. Alright, here's the cabinet up on the workbench. It's stripped down pretty well, but I still see a little bit of residue here and there, so scrape a little off, and then I'm going to sand this to roughen it up a little bit before I put the glue down. So I need to figure out how I want to position this. So it's going to be mirrored right around there. Now there's going to be some holes cut out, there'll be knobs, there'll be decals, so you're not going to actually see that much of it. Right, the most visible areas, I suppose, are going to be on the edge here. So I've got a few options. One is this down in here. It's got the dramatic darker color in there. And then on the sides we'll have kind of where these holes are. Or like this that I was thinking about doing, but these patterns are not mirrored as well as I would like, so it's not going to be that cool looking down in here, I don't think. Or of course I can go like this, or maybe like this. Might look nice, because then it's going to be kind of curving up as it gets towards the outside. Now there's another issue I've been kind of glossing over, which is that the original faux finish on this actually went right around the edge. Because this secondary wood actually goes over the edge like this. And the original faux went right around the side. Now what I could do is try to bend this. Probably start cracking. It's a bit stronger now with the glue, and maybe with some heat or a little steam, I could wrap this around. I might. But otherwise, I can just cut this off flush, because it also curves around up here too, at the top, which I think would be kind of hard to get in this compound area. So I might just trim it off right where the curve starts, like that, and flush along here. And then simply paint this bull nose with some opaque brown mahogany toner, which I do have on hand. Because yeah, when it gets in up here, I mean, to bend it around the side and the top and the corner, I mean, it's just not going to happen. So what to do? Well, if I do want to go like with this. See, it's already chipped out a bit here, so I'm going to have to cut back pretty far. So what happens with this burl, not only is it all wavy and all that, but the pieces fall out all the time because it's unstable material. But now that it's been soaked with that solution, which has glue in it, this stuff is stronger and more flexible. In the end, I decided I would go with this. I was puzzled as to why the mirror image wasn't looking so good. And then I realized, oh, it's because these were not cut off at the same position. If I slide one over a little bit on the other to run around here, it looks better down in this area. So in other words, I need to trim about 1/4 inch off of one of these sheets, and then the book match effect will be much nicer. I just finished trimming up the veneer. I used a DeWalt carbide blade in my utility knife. Remember that when you dispense one of these, they have some light machine oil on them. You want to wipe that off, otherwise you get oil on your veneer. You could have trouble with the glue or the finish later on. Alright, so now I had them taped down temporarily while I was trimming them. Now I want to line them up and put in those push pins I was talking about, and then tape this right about like that. Don't care so much about here because this is going to get trimmed off where the cabinet has an opening like this. So this is the sweet spot, like right in there. That's what I really want to get tight up and make sure the patterns match up nice. And yeah, sure, these pins will make a small hole in the veneer, but once you take it out, it'll kind of close back up a little, and the grain filler will fill in the rest. Helps to kind of put something on this too, otherwise it will start buckling up. So I'm going to find a little weight I can put on there. Alright, now for the tape. Could have put those pins in closer together, I realize that now, but this will work fine. Put this tape on my t-shirt, tear it off so it's not quite so sticky, and like so. Some of the excess. Alright. There's actually one other task I have to do before I can glue this down, which is I need to cut out this section. The opening in the cabinet has a raised kind of picture frame around it, so I can't glue this down and cut it out afterwards. There's a raised edge. I've got to cut this out first. So instead of measuring it, I went over there with this piece of wood and scored marks on it. So these marks, that's the exact width. And then I need to now find the center point between those two, and that'll go right on here. And then that's how wide the cut opening needs to be. And then this mark here, this is how tall. So I want to go from up to here and then across in here. And once I cut these pieces out, I suppose I need to rotate them around over to here, because I also want to do this bit up here, so I'll tack that down and tape it as well. Might as well do this all in one shot. Alright, there it is. Two side pieces are joined on, so now I can finally start applying the glue. And now for the glue. I'm going to work this around and get an even coating on the roller. Put a little wax paper down so everything doesn't get stuck together. Coat the back of this, coat the cabinet, wait for it to dry, put another coat, and then get out the iron. And I'm happy to say that this little roller does actually work just fine. So I've got one thin, even coat on this. While this sets up, I will do the same to the cabinet. The glue is dry, and I've got the iron plugged in and warming up, but I just made a little unexpected discovery. It seems that while I applied the glue, the wood expanded. So now I've got a sizable gap over here. But all is not lost, because all I do is peel this tape back and trim a little bit off either side to compensate. And then I'll close that up, so maybe trim like 16th of an inch off of either piece. Well, that was unexpected, but after a little trimming, I think I'm back on track now. Of course, it's occurred to me that when I iron this, it may shrink back up, and this will pull apart, in which case, well, I may just have to go back to square one and flatten 2 more sheets of veneer and start over. Let's hope that is not the case. Alright, it took a while, but I think this might actually work out. I started ironing in the center and worked my way out, and it did not shrink like I thought it might. I'm guessing that as soon as the glue started to grab, it prevented the wood from shrinking up. So this all turned out fine. A little bit of a gap in here. Not the end of the world. Use a little filler, or when I use the Grange filler, it'll fill that in. In fact, things are going so well, I decided, what the heck, I might as well try to go bend it over the edge, and that worked out quite well. But I'm still going to have to deal with this upper edge, how I want to treat that. I'm not entirely sure. Could just trim it off, and again, use the brown opaque toner to fill that in, or I could bend this down and have a weird funky corner there, I don't know, but I figure at least I'll wrap it around the sides. It'll save me having to make a cut here. I'll just trim it down along the side, no problem. The other side, though, it did split, like I feared when if I tried bending it over. Also a bit of a gap there. You can see it cracked a line here. Not the end of the world, not that big a deal. Oh, and I guess it cracked there too. And I'm sure there's small cracks throughout. You know, this is an awfully strained wood grain, so that'll happen. I think I'm going to grab the iron and go over this a bit more and see if I can get that down. Close that up a little bit. But yeah, I'll just sit overnight, and hopefully nothing bad will happen. It won't peel up or crack or shrink or anything.